My name's Alex, a 32-year-old software developer from Chicago. People usually describe me as easygoing and analytical, perhaps because I spend my days troubleshooting code and ensuring every line performs its function flawlessly. I met Emily at a tech conference 5 years ago. She was a graphic designer full of creative flair that perfectly complemented my structured mind. Her laughter was infectious, and her passion for art made every moment vibrant. We clicked instantly, sharing ideas over coffee, which soon turned into dinners, movies, and eventually a shared apartment downtown. Tom had been my best friend since high school. We were the duo everyone knew and loved, always together whether it was for Friday night games or family BBQs. Tom knew me better than anyone, including my quirks and faults. He was more than a friend. He was the brother I never had. Together, we navigated the ups and downs of life, from college exams to career changes, always supporting each other. As Emily and I set a date for our wedding, excitement filled the air. Our apartment became a hub of wedding plans, with stacks of invitations on the counter and a spreadsheet of guest lists and meal choices on the laptop. The venue was a beautiful estate on the outskirts of the city, with sprawling gardens that promised a perfect backdrop for our spring wedding. Family and friends talked of nothing else, and every detail seemed to be falling into place. Tom was to be my best man, and his toast was one of the most anticipated moments of the evening. However, amid the laughter and plans, a nagging sensation tugged at the back of my mind. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, like a soft whisper in a bustling street. Maybe it was the way Emily texted more frequently but shared less with me, or how Tom's easy smiles seemed forced when we discussed the wedding. They reassured me it was just pre-wedding jitters. I wanted to believe them, to dismiss the cold knot forming in my stomach as nothing but needless worry. But as the days drew closer, that whisper became harder to ignore. Something wasn't quite right, but I pushed those thoughts down, focusing instead on the happy future that seemed so certain. Emily began returning home later from work, her explanations vague and her smile a little too strained. Her phone, previously left casually on kitchen counters or couch cushions, now seemed permanently attached to her hand, the screen always angled away from my view. She laughed off my questions about these new habits, chalking them up to project deadlines and client demands. I tried to shake off the discomfort settling in my chest, attributing it to pre-wedding stress, which, I told myself, was perfectly normal. Tom's behavior shifted subtly too. He started canceling our weekly basketball games, each excuse more flimsy than the last. Something came up, he'd text minutes before we were due to meet, or feeling under the weather, though I'd see pictures of him online later, looking healthy at various outings. Our conversations, once filled with easy banter and inside jokes, now felt stilted. He dodged questions about his sudden unavailability and changed the subject when I probed too deeply. One evening, as we all watched a movie together, Emily received a text. Her body tensed, and she glanced quickly at Tom before muting her phone. The action was small, almost imperceptible, but to me it echoed like a loud bell in a quiet room. I asked her if everything was okay, noting how her fingers trembled as she typed a rapid response. "Just work stuff," she muttered, not meeting my eyes. I nodded, pretending to believe her, not wanting to admit that the seeds of doubt were germinating in my mind. Weeks passed, and these small red flags wove into a tapestry of suspicion that I could no longer ignore. Yet I found myself dismissing each sign, unwilling to confront the possibility that something deeper was amiss. Trust, the foundation of our relationship, kept me from asking too many questions, even when every instinct screamed that I was overlooking the obvious. Looking back on those days, a simple truth etches itself into my memory. I should have listened to that feeling. On a cool Thursday evening, Emily mentioned she would be working late again, urging me not to wait up. With dinner alone growing routine, I decided to surprise her with her favorite takeout. As I approached her office building, the sight through the expansive windows stopped me in my tracks. There, in what was supposed to be a late-night office, Emily and Tom were laughing over drinks, their postures far too close for comfort. Confusion gripped me as I pushed through the lobby doors, my heart sinking further with every step toward the elevator. Upon reaching her floor, the muted sounds of their laughter grew louder, a painful backdrop to the storm brewing inside me. Peering from behind the hallway's corner, I witnessed them kiss. A moment so intimate, it shattered my world into jagged shards. The bag of food slipped from my grasp, its contents sprawling unnoticed across the polished floor. Their heads turned at the sound, eyes wide with shock. Emily stammered, trying to form words that wouldn't come, while Tom stood frozen, his face draining of color. The silence was deafening, filled only with the racing of my pulse. Lies tumbled from Emily's lips, feeble attempts at explanations that dissolved before they even reached my ears. Tom said nothing, his shame written clearly across his features, a stark contrast to the countless times he'd spoken vows of brotherhood to me. The weight of their betrayal pinned me to the spot momentarily before instinct took over. I turned, leaving behind the broken scene, my steps echoing down the hall with a hollow cadence that matched the emptiness blossoming in my chest. The cool night air hit my face as I exited the building, a stark reminder of the solitude wrapping its cold fingers around me. Driving away, the city lights blurred into streaks of color as tears welled in my eyes. The future I had envisioned, filled with love and shared dreams, crumbled piece by piece with each mile I put between us. By the time the skyline was just a glimmer in my rearview mirror, resolve hardened within me. The wedding was off, the engagement broken, but the final chapter of this story remained unwritten. This betrayal would not be the end. It was merely the catalyst for a reckoning they never anticipated. Dealing with the aftermath alone was torturous. The apartment that once echoed with laughter now drowned in silence. Meals went uneaten, the food tasteless, and sleep became a stranger. Nights stretched long and days merged, each moment tainted with the residue of betrayal. Friends and relatives continued their cheerful chatter about the upcoming wedding, unaware of the devastation that had unfolded. Each call to cancel the venue, the caterer, and the florist chipped away further at the facade of normalcy I struggled to maintain. Discussions with family were the hardest. Explaining the betrayal without breaking down required a strength I hadn't known I needed. Shame and disappointment shadowed their words, though they tried to mask it with reassurances and awkward pats on the back. Social media became a minefield, the wedding announcement posts now mocking reminders of a future stolen. One evening, the walls of the apartment felt too close, suffocating. I found myself driving without destination, the city lights a blur through tear-filled eyes. Pulled over on the side of a quiet street, I slammed my fists against the steering wheel, a primal scream escaping my lips, muffled only by the car windows. The physical pain was a brief respite from the emotional turmoil that wouldn't subside. But as the echo of that cry faded, a new resolve began to form. Wiping tears from my cheeks, a determination took root amidst the shards of my shattered plans. The path forward was uncertain, filled with obstacles yet to be faced. But one thing was clear: I would not let this defeat me. As dawn broke over the skyline, clarity emerged from the chaos of betrayal. This pain would not define the end, but mark a new beginning of calculated retribution. Reflecting on every shared secret, every vulnerable moment granted to those who had wronged me, the arsenal for a perfectly crafted revenge took shape. Strategies formed, not out of anger alone, but from a deep need to balance the scales that they had so carelessly tipped. The first step involved gathering evidence. Every text, email, and photograph that could substantiate their deceit was meticulously compiled. Knowing their habits, their schedules, and their little lies, it became easier to predict their moves, to intercept the whispers of infidelity that they thought were hidden. The digital footprints they had left in their arrogance would now lead to their undoing. In the heart of this storm of betrayal, an idea sparked. Why not turn the planned wedding into a stage for their disgrace? The guest list, already populated with friends, family, and colleagues eager to celebrate, would now become an audience to their downfall. This revelation would be public, humiliating, a spectacle that would shatter their facades in front of those they valued most. With precision, an anonymous email was crafted to all invited, hinting at a surprise that would unveil the true nature of this union. Anticipation built among the guests, the buzz of curiosity stirring the pot further. As the supposed wedding day approached, more hints were dropped, weaving a web that Emily and Tom could not escape. Their confidence, once unshakable, began to falter as whispers of the unexpected wedding day event spread. Social media, a tool they once used to flaunt their supposed happiness, now turned into a weapon against them. Posts and comments hinted at revelations to come, each tagged with a winking emoji, a silent nod to the storm that was brewing. As plans solidified, allies were enlisted from among those also wronged by their actions. This network of the slighted became co-conspirators, each motivated by their grievances to see this plan through. With careful coordination, everything was set. The stage was ready, the actors were in place, and the script was written in the ink of justice. They wanted to play dirty. The thought resonated with a cold satisfaction. Fine, let's play. As the day of reckoning drew near, the pieces were in place. This would be a performance remembered for ages, a lesson in the price of deceit, delivered not with violence, but with the brutal elegance of the truth laid bare for all to see. Evidence continued to accumulate, each piece more condemning than the last. Text messages overlaid with promises of eternal love, email exchanges that plotted secret rendezvous, and photos that captured moments meant to stay hidden. All were now catalogued meticulously. This collection was not just digital. Voicemails filled with whispers and laughter, a testament to their betrayal, added to the growing repository. The digital trail was damning, a concrete narrative of deception that no denial could erase. Trusted allies were key in this strategy. One particularly close colleague, whose judgment and discretion had always been impeccable, became a cornerstone of the plan. This confidant not only helped in gathering the necessary information, but also served as a sounding board, ensuring that actions remained calculated and devoid of rash emotion. Their support was invaluable, a steady presence in a sea of turmoil. To the outside world, the wedding plans appeared to proceed. Invitations reissued, the venue confirmed, and every detail of the celebration meticulously orchestrated to give the illusion of a joyous event forthcoming. This facade was crucial, a lure to ensure that both Emily and Tom felt secure in their deception, unaware of the impending exposure. Each step was planned with precision. The guest list was scrutinized and adjusted, ensuring an audience that would be most impacted by the revelation, maximizing the social fallout for the betrayers. A multimedia presentation was prepared, a devastating montage of texts, emails, and photos set against a timeline of their duplicity. This evidence was to be unveiled at the height of the gathering, timed perfectly to catch the perpetrators off guard and to allow no room for escape or excuse. I had everything I needed. Now it was just timing. The days leading up to the event were filled with a cold determination. The plan was set, the trap laid, and all that remained was to wait for the moment when the curtain would rise on their disgrace. Arranged under the guise of a festive pre-wedding celebration, the stage was perfectly set for the dramatic unmasking. Guests arrived in elegant attire, expectant of a joyful evening filled with laughter and love, unaware of the underlying plot poised to unfold. The venue, beautifully adorned with flowers and lights, pulsed with music and cheerful conversations, creating a stark contrast to the tension that underlay the surface. As the room buzzed with old friends reconnecting and relatives sharing stories, the atmosphere was ripe with anticipation. Glasses clinked and smiles were exchanged, the normalcy of the event painting a veneer of blissful ignorance over the guests. Both Emily and Tom mingled with ease among the crowd, their laughter echoing too loudly, their smiles stretched too wide, betraying a nervous energy to the trained eye. Preparations behind the scenes were covert yet meticulous. The audiovisual setup, hidden from plain view, was ready to project the damning montage onto a large screen strategically placed at the front of the hall. The impact of the revelation was calculated to resonate not just through the hearts of the betrayers, but to ripple outward, marking them indelibly in the social consciousness of all present. As the clock neared the appointed hour, the music's volume lowered, and attention was subtly directed towards the front, where a seemingly innocent announcement was to be made. The room's energy shifted as curiosity turned to confusion, then to shock as the first images and texts appeared, each slide meticulously timed to chronicle the deception that had woven through what many had believed was a fairy tale romance. The fallout was immediate and palpable. Gasps filled the air, hands covered mouths, and whispers quickly turned to murmurs of disbelief. Emily and Tom, caught in the glare of not just the projector, but the stunned looks of family and friends, stood frozen, their facades crumbling visibly as the evidence laid bare their duplicity. The room's temperature seemed to drop, the festive atmosphere evaporating as reality set in starkly against the backdrop of celebration. Their attempts to speak, to explain, were drowned out by the crescendo of voices rising around them, the betrayal too profound to be mitigated by any words they might have offered. The crowd's reaction was a mix of anger, sympathy, and disbelief, the social ramifications of their actions mirroring the personal devastation they had wrought. The room went dead silent. My revenge had just begun. This silence was not one of peace, but of a storm brewing, the quiet before the deluge of consequences that would inevitably follow. As the screen went dark and the lights came back up, the real impact of the evening's revelations was only just beginning to take shape. In the days following the public unmasking, the fallout for Emily and Tom was catastrophic. Denial was their initial shield. They attempted to discredit the evidence, claiming manipulation or misunderstanding. However, the proof was too overwhelming, their deceit too clearly documented for anyone to doubt. Calls and texts from concerned friends and baffled relatives flooded their phones, each conversation a strike against the facade they had so carefully constructed. Tom faced immediate repercussions within his social circles. Longtime friends, mutual acquaintances of ours, withdrew their camaraderie, disillusioned by his betrayal. His role as my best man, once a badge of honor, now marked him with infamy. The brotherhood we shared was irrevocably shattered, leaving him isolated in a community that once embraced him as a leader and confidant. Emily's professional life suffered equally. Her career, built around a network of professional relationships that valued integrity and trust, began to crumble as colleagues distanced themselves. Clients who had engaged her for her creative services reevaluated their associations, unwilling to tie their brands to someone capable of such personal duplicity. The creative flair that had attracted me to her was now overshadowed by the scandal. Together, their relationship buckled under the weight of public scrutiny and personal guilt. What little bond they had was not fortified by true companionship, but rather a fleeting attraction that could not withstand the storm of exposure. Their partnership dissolved as quickly as it had formed, leaving them to navigate the aftermath of their actions alone. Social media became a battleground, with posts and comments painting their story in broad, unforgiving strokes. Every shared image or status update was dissected, each like and follow scrutinized and often withdrawn. The digital realm, once a diary of their escapades, turned into a ledger of their downfall. I didn't ruin their lives, they did. I just showed the truth. This reflection, while cold, became a mantra that helped me cope with the waves of emotion that followed. While I orchestrated their public disgrace, their choices had set the stage long before I pulled the curtains back. The consequences they suffered were the direct result of actions they chose freely, a truth that no amount of denial could obscure. Their lives, once intertwined with mine in what I believed to be genuine bonds of love and friendship, were now separate narratives marked by cautionary tales and lessons learned the hardest way. Emerging from the shadows of betrayal, rejuvenation began with small steps, each one steering towards recovery and self-discovery. Physical activity became a sanctuary. hours spent at the gym translated into a newfound appreciation for health and vitality. Each drop of sweat on the treadmill washed away a little of the bitterness that had seeped into the soul. Therapy sessions opened avenues to vent frustrations and dissect feelings that had knotted tightly around the heart. These meetings, once dreaded, became eagerly anticipated, a safe space to unravel the complexities of trust and personal growth. The insights gained from these discussions illuminated past mistakes and paved a pathway toward emotional resilience. Travel also played a crucial role in the healing process. New landscapes brought fresh perspectives, whether it was the serene beaches of a remote island or the bustling streets of a foreign city. Each destination helped distance from past pains. These journeys were not just about sightseeing, but about introspection and healing, finding peace in sunsets and solace in the unfamiliar. New hobbies were explored, each one adding a layer of complexity and joy to life that had been missing in the months of planning a wedding that never happened. Photography, once a casual interest, developed into a passionate pursuit, capturing moments of beauty that were stark contrasts to the recent past's chaos. Cooking classes brought unexpected joy, turning raw ingredients into dishes that delighted the senses, much like piecing together a life that felt fragmented. Support came from surprising quarters, acquaintances who became friends, friends who became confidants. This network of support was both a shield and a scaffold, providing protection and helping rebuild the self-esteem that had crumbled under the weight of public embarrassment. It was comforting to discover that compassion could come from corners previously overlooked. Through these experiences, a new self emerged, tempered by adversity, but not broken by it. The lessons learned were harsh, but valuable, teaching that while trust might be a fragile thing, it could also be rebuilt, stronger and smarter. The vulnerability once viewed as a weakness had transformed into a source of strength, a testament to the endurance of the human spirit. I lost them, but I found myself. This realization was not just a conclusion, but a declaration of independence from the past and a resilient embrace of the future. No longer defined by relationships that betrayed, life now offered a canvas broad and bright, ready for fresh colors and bold strokes. The journey had not been easy, but the destination revealed a vista of possibilities, promising a life richer and more fulfilling than ever imagined. Reflecting on this entire journey reveals profound lessons about love, friendship, betrayal, and revenge. Love was always thought to be unconditional and enduring, yet the trials faced showed it could also be fragile and conditional. Friendship, a bond expected to withstand life's highs and lows, was tested and found wanting under the weight of personal gain and betrayal. These experiences taught that betrayal could come from the most trusted corners, and its impact could resonate deeper than imagined, shaking the foundations of what was once considered unshakable. Revenge, often seen as a path to justice, turned out to be a double-edged sword. It provided temporary satisfaction, and a sense of justice served but also illuminated the darker recesses of the soul, where anger and hurt lay hidden. It was a journey through the shadowy parts of heartbreak and retribution, revealing that true strength lies in forgiveness and moving forward, not in dwelling on the past. For anyone navigating through the turbulent waters of betrayal and contemplating revenge, consider this: the energy it takes to plan and execute revenge can be redirected towards personal growth and rebuilding. The desire for retribution is understandable, but the path to genuine healing lies in letting go and focusing on oneself. Transformation often begins where suffering ends, and peace is found not in the chaos of vengeance, but in the quiet that follows forgiveness. Forgiveness, however, is a personal journey. It cannot be forced or hurried. Whether or not to forgive those who have wronged us deeply is a complex decision, one that involves much soul-searching and may vary depending on the circumstances and the depth of the wounds inflicted. As for Emily and Tom, the road to forgiveness is still unpaved, littered with the debris of broken trust and the remnants of a friendship and a love that were once held dear. It is a road possibly to be traveled one day, but not yet. They took my heart and stabbed it. I used the blade to rebuild my soul. This encapsulates the transformation endured and the resilience forged in the fire of betrayal. It symbolizes not just survival, but a rebirth, an emergence from adversity stronger and more whole than before. This journey was not chosen, but the road traveled was walked with courage, and every step forward continues to shape a future defined by wisdom, strength, and grace. And